This past weekend, we had RLCS X Games North American Regional Winter Event 3, and with it came some very exciting matches. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the results, who ended up winning, and recapping the entire event as a whole, going through the group stages, double elimination, the whole 9 yards. Unfortunately, this always takes forever, so I'm going to try to go through this as quickly as I possibly can, just because it is a double elimination. There's a lot of events and a lot of matches, so we've got 4 days of Rocket League to recap, but we're going to go over the specific things, the important storylines, and all that and more. What's up, everybody? Lawler here, your insight source for all things Rocket League. Today's video, as I mentioned, we're going to be breaking down the North American Regional 3, the one that was in partnership with the X Games. If you guys didn't see the post or my news info about it previously, there was medals for it. But as a quick, brief summary, preview 3, obviously, for the regionals to go into the major, points on the line, blah, blah, blah. Over the course of 2 weekends, we had last weekend and then the weekend before that as well. It started on January 23rd. It finished yesterday on the 31st. $100,000 up for grabs, winner taking 30K. Not only that, but it was in partnership with the X Games, so they ended up getting gold and silver medals. No medals for third place for whatever reason. Today's video, again, we're going to be breaking down what happens, everything from start to finish, but a quick recap on kind of the big notable upsets that came with it. So with that said, let's jump into the winners rounds. As we go through, we're going to talk about winners round 1, 2, and then all the way through, all the way up until winners finals. Then we're going to drop down to the lower bracket, get through kind of the early matches that are less important, and then kind of talk through that as well. At the end of the video as well, we're going to break down the rankings and what they mean, who's going to the major, because that information will be found out. The only thing that I will put with that is there is 4 teams in North America that have yet to secure a spot. They will be playing tiebreakers to see who the last 3 spots will be while one gets removed. This same exact situation actually happened in Europe, where there was 4 teams playing for tiebreaker, and it was denied that did not make it in. So if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, links to all the stuff I'm talking about in the description as always. So first things up, winners round 1, you can see the list: Jamal Jabari, Down to Earth, Kansas City Pioneers, Soul, United, Nefarious, Ghost Gaming, Radiant, Xset, Sup, Alpine, 72 PCs, Loco, Volt, Sonics, and Empty Space. Out of all those teams, there is also teams in winners round 2 that have a bye. The teams that got a bye are based upon grid results and some other results beforehand. If we look at winners round 2 as well, you can see Envy, V1, G2, Rogue, Energy, PK, Space Station, and the Peeps. The reason why I bring these up is out of every single match in winners round 2, there was only one upset. Every single round but that Peeps and Sonic series had the high seed win, which is what is expected. You have expectations set of where the better teams that get those buys are supposed to win, and that's pretty much how this tournament went up until the quarterfinals, where the best team that is assumed won every single time. And that's what we're trying to see and what we're hoping to see in a trend, where we don't see G2 and Space Station dropping in first rounds, and then V1's got to play both of those before they even get into winners or losers round 2 or 3 or whatever the ridiculousness has been in the past. You are starting to see, from what it looks like, the expected winner is going to win. And I think a lot of that has to do with the realization that they had a little bit of a break. Now they're putting in the hours again. And from interviews that I've talked with other players, the players have said that, yeah, the reason why Space Station and Energy weren't looking as good is because their hours were lacking. That doesn't seem to be the case. These guys are grinding, and they put up pretty dang good results. So going through, the big surprise for me was version 1 gave us a little bit of a scare. Going to 5 against Soul, who ended up upsetting Kansas City Pioneers in the first round. KCP has been struggling a little bit as of late. They feel like they practice and try to do certain things, but then they don't do those same things when it's on the field, and it's creating this issue. Like, they're more, from what people are saying, focused on winning scrims and caring about their scrim results rather than practicing and trying to get into form so they look good on the day of. And apparently those results are showing. That is the opinion of only a select few, so it'll be interesting to see if that ends up continuing. Alongside that, you also saw G2 have a really tough win against United. G2 should be a team that I think is leagues ahead against United, even though I think United has been trending in an okay direction. Sonics has pretty much taken their spot for me personally. It was very interesting to see that G2 does bring it all the way to 5 in a close series. Other than that, all these teams that were in that winner round 2 in the uppers only played 1 match on the day. And the only other surprise, 72 PC ends up beating Alpine in winner round 1. If you guys don't know, 72 PC is no longer the same roster. They are now using Spider that came over from Continuum. News on Continuum coming up in a recent video, so keep your eyes out for that. If you guys don't already, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, all that kind of fun stuff, so you don't miss out on that news. But Continuum has a new player on their roster, and it's a big deal. 72 PC with Spider looking pretty good. Although the gameplay was a snooze fest and extremely boring, they did keep it competitive, so I will give them that. Upsetting Alpine, a pretty big deal. They do end up losing to 72 PC. Know that as normal. The big surprise, though, is the Peeps dropping to Sonics. Many people consider Peeps a top 5, top 6 team in the region, while Sonics is kind of fighting for that 7-8 area. So a big upset for Sonics does put them into the quarterfinals. That is a big deal for double elimination. It just moves them one step further in the bracket for guaranteed points, allows them to get into tiebreaker scenarios. And that was pretty much the focus here when we go into quarterfinals. This is essentially going into the third day or the second day of matches. Those quarterfinals are a pretty big deal. This would have happened Saturday is when these matches would have started. But there was 4 teams that were basically fighting with Jamal Jabari, Sonics, Pittsburgh Knights, and Ghost. We're all fighting for those quarterfinal spots. So a lot of tiebreaker scenarios. We'll still be seeing how that plays out in a future turn. We then go to the quarterfinals, and as expected as well, Space Station over Sonics 3-0, Energy 3-1 over PK, Envy 3-1 over V1, and another close series, but then Envy really turned it on towards the end. But the big upset was Rogue versus G2, 2 OTs, and Rogue ends up winning. Various coaches and pros had stopped into my watch parties and talking about Rogue and their performances and how they do look lethal, even though many of us do believe that certain teams have a better look against them. Rogue is a team that seems to be one that when they are on, they are very much so on. My concern with Rogue has always been the lack of use of Taroko. I think Taroko is a very talented player, but because they have both First Killer and Turanturo on the team, they're not really able to get that many touches or that much boost on the field. It's 3 players that are all very mechanically solid, but you can only propel one player or try to keep one successful so much. But Taroko takes a backseat and they feed it primarily to First Killer. And in this tournament, you saw it very early on that a lot of the focus was actually on making Turanturo the highlight player. First Killer used his 1s playstyle to set things up for his teammates, whether it be being a nuisance, double backing, going for bumps and demos, denying boost, still hitting a lot of really phenomenal shots, but primarily it was feeding the ball to Turanturo and allowing him to mechanically have a good play. And that's what I think makes Rogue so dangerous, is First Killer can do a lot of really exciting things, and Turanturo, even though I feel like he may suffer because he's not getting as many touches, when Turanturo and First Killer on, they look incredible. I'm jumping the gun a little bit. There's a match that they ended up playing later on, and I'll tell you which one, but they hold one of the best offenses in Rocket League to 3 shots over the course of 2 games, and that's including 1 shot in one of those games that only came in overtime. So Rogue's offense has been suffocating to the extent of Envy, but many of us feel that Envy is still just a more complete team. But when Rogue is playing this fast and this aggressive and this ball hoggish, you do not get a chance to play. It's just not a thing that happens. So we'll talk about them later, but they end up upsetting G2. They move on into the winner semis, while Energy and Space Station both, like I said, progress. They end up going into the winner semis as well. Starting on that lower end, it is Energy versus Space Station. Space Station historically has always had Energy's number, where Space Station, the team-wise, is always able to propel in the end. But Energy had a secret weapon named Garrett and the X Games. And for those that don't know the X Games Garrett situation, go back and check that out. But X Games Garrett is playing out of his mind. Some of the best performances from an individual we're seeing in a very long time. And it just continued to happen. Despite that, it is a very close series. It does go all the way to 7 with 3 overtimes in a row in games 3, 4, and 5. But ultimately, it is Energy that closes it out in 7. So really exciting matches. Unfortunate for Space Station because they had 2 chances to close it out as they're on match point at 1 point at 3-2, but just could not do it. So Energy moves on to the winners finals. They go up against the winner of Envy and Rogue, which Rogue also wins this one in 7. This one was surprising, I think, more than any of the other matches, just because I do think Envy has a team that defensively and offensively matches up really well against Rogue. Very disciplined in their playstyle, where they don't really succumb to the weirdness of a Rogue team that's bump and demo heavy. They feel very calm and collected on defense, especially with someone like Turbo, but it was just so much offense and so much pressure from Rogue that even Envy isn't able to break out of their own half. Like, it was legitimately at times 4 minutes of offense and Envy couldn't do a single thing. So credit to Rogue. And despite that, obviously Envy still big counterattack plays where someone like Atomic would win a 50 in the midfield, and rather than doubling back and rotating back, he continues to move downfield and waits for a pass from Turbo, and it's a perfect 1-2 back of the net. So Envy's still lethal, but Rogue ends up taking this one, dropping Envy out of the winners finals for the first time in a while. Does give advantage to others. We then go into the final match, which was one of the earlier matches on the final day on Sunday, just yesterday, which was Rogue versus Energy, and another 7. So as of right now, Rogue has gone through G2, Envy, and now NRG. The only top team they haven't had to face is Space Station. So Rogue does end up beating NRG as well, and it's more of the same. I talk about that difference of being able to hold NRG or hold a team to only 3 shots. You're talking NRG's offense. You've got Squishy, Garrett, who's playing out of his mind, and Justin, and you hold that offense to 3 shots in the last 2 games. It is a nail biter. It goes back and forth. They pretty much threw offense all the time. Nobody knew how to play defense in the first like half of the series. It was just a bloodbath. Really good series to watch. Even though Europe may be a little bit more methodical and a little bit more controlled and less mistakes, NA's mechanics and heavy focus offense is what makes it exciting. This series is a prime example of that. So with that, guaranteed results for Rogue to be in the grand final means they are either first or second and are most definitely taking some sort of medal. We then jump down to the lower bracket and 2 big upsets to point out. The first one I would say is Jamal Jabari continues to progress forward, most importantly in losers round 2. The biggest upsets to pay attention to in that lower round, number 1 is Jamal Jabari versus Alpine. Alpine in 2 back-to-back weeks of the grid had to play Jamal Jabari out of groups. Jamal Jabari went 6-0 in groups in week 3 and week 4. And then as soon as they got into the final playoff bracket, they got swept by Alpine twice in a row. This time they get revenge in the one that matters more, which is the regionals, the one that counts for points towards the world championship. So Jamal Jabari sweeps Alpine. Very big deal there. On the other side of that, Loco ends up beating United, a game that United I do think is close, but United should not be dropping to Loco on that one. Pretty big upset on that as well. Teams like Jamal Jabari and Loco had to finish top 3 to even have a chance at the major, so a very tough result for them, trying to get past a lot of these juggernauts when it comes to the teams. The Peeps, another team that fell down immediately, ended up going through Ghost Gaming, Nefarious, and then up against V1 in losers round 3, and they end up having V1's number again. So really tough results for V1, even though V1 falls out very early. Because of the grid performance and being in that top 6, they have a guaranteed spot into the major. Even though they have a guaranteed spot in the major, they needed to get a little bit further in these results to help them towards the world championship for points. If they don't have a really good result in the winter major in just a few weeks here, the difficulty is they're probably out of the running for worlds. So big result going to be needed from V1 here in about 3 weeks. On that, Jamal Jabari continued on their streak as well in losers round 3, where they end up 3-1ing Sonics as well. So they move past Alpine and Sonics and go up against Loco, who they also beat. So Jamal Jabari trying to show that they are not that kind of gatekeeper team and that they're a little bit better. So getting through some of the teams in their way, moving from like that 10-11 spot in power rankings and slowly bumping themselves up. I mean, to make it into the quarterfinals is a pretty big deal. So congrats to Jamal Jabari, top 6 placement. Other than that, the only really big upset is Kansas City Pioneers. They did go to 5 against 72 PC, the new 72 PC playing a very defensive play. Very boring game. I mean this in the nicest way, but that 72 PC Kansas City Pioneers series was so stale. It was so unbelievably boring. Like I'm talking like Renegades Veloce kind of. It was just so dull. But then they win. They go up against XSET and get swept. So that was kind of weird. Very weird to see Kansas City Pioneers to lose XSET. 4-1, 4-3, 3-2 with an OT of 209. Don't know what was going on that day for Kansas City Pioneers. To close out the losers, we can kind of talk about the other match or the other half of that bracket. In losers round 4, you've got G2 versus the Peeps, which Peeps end up upsetting G2 as well. AJ needs to get the credit he deserves. I'm here to say it yet again. AJ is absolutely nuts, and it is being paired with very, very good play and shooting from Gyro and Illusion also stepping up. The Peeps look lethal. I don't know what happened in the first weekend to what dropped them down, where they had a really rough result against Sonics, but they looked incredible against G2 and V1. I don't know what it is where they just can't get those wins against the top dogs. I'm talking like your top 3, like I think top 3 for me right now are Envy, Space Station, and NRG. G2 just outside of that. They just can't seem to beat those 3, but everybody else in between, they have a really good match against. So I don't know what's going to take it for them to push to that next level. That's what they've been focusing on. But my goodness, when they played against G2 back and forth, they did go to the distance to 5 with 2 OTs in there, but a mistake off of the kickoff allows Peeps to win in that game 5 OT, only 9 seconds in. But man, Peeps, again, continue to push into and will most likely be one of the final teams that represent the World Championships if they keep doing what they're doing. They went on to play Space Station, and Space Station hit the hot hand. This was the first match of the final day on Sunday. Rob G even popped into the stream, and you can actually see my tweet where he talks about if we play like this, we're winning the whole thing. And they looked stellar. They looked really, really good. Everybody involved. Reddle's hitting some pretty crazy redirects. Arsenal getting a little bit more creative with his touches. Typical putting everything placement-wise perfectly top right. Just really good play, really solid play from Space Station, a team that we were kind of worried about. Both them and Energy, we had concerns about who's going to do it, what's going to happen, and the Space Station team stepped up. They went on into the losers semifinals to play Envy and just walloped them, like absolutely smashed them. I will clarify, though, that after these loser quarterfinals did happen, it was Rogue versus Energy, and then it came back down to the loser semifinals. So there was a little bit of a break in between these, and it did not matter. Like, Space Station ended up just trouncing them. 4-0 clean sweep, 3-2, 5-1, 2-1, 3-2. So 3 one-goal games. A lot closer than I'm making it sound to be, but like Space Station had control of the game the entire time. It was just more so Envy was like tying it back up and being like, okay, it's kind of out of reach. No, just kidding. And then Space Station would increase the lead again. So Space Station was averaging like 4 goals a game at one point and made it very difficult for you to beat them. So Space Station put up a ton of goals, scoring an absolute ton. It was pretty crazy to see them put up that many shots and that many goals after their offense had been lacking so much just a week ago. Then get into the losers finals with Energy and Space Station and another back and forth. Again, Space Station and Energy going up against each other. This is a rematch of the winners semifinals, and it went to 7 with Energy winning the first time. This time Energy wastes no time, and it's unfortunate for Space Station because in 3 OTs they do only win 1, and that's the only game they won. Energy just seemed to have the hot hand today. I don't know what it was about Garrett. Probably the best individual performance from Garrett on a specific game. I think Garrett had a really good weekend over the past 2 weeks in general. But this game in particular was the one where everybody recognized, like, okay, Garrett's playing out of his mind. Garrett's just hitting whatever he wants. He's always in the right position. Good things are happening. And they really stuck it to him. So that was really exciting to see that happen. But ultimately, Energy going on a momentum kind of swing. And you kind of got a little bit worried for Rogue, a team that had been waiting for a little bit. As we jump into the grand finals, it is Rogue versus Energy. Rogue having to sit a little bit, while Energy has now played multiple series in a row, is going to have to figure out a way to kind of bounce back. I think the exciting thing about this bracket in general is it doesn't really feel like if a team loses the winners finals and they drop down to the lower finals that they're going to be able to kind of retain. But for Energy to bounce back, they'd win losers, or they lose winners finals, drop down to lowers, and then immediately make it back in one game later. While Space Station has been on a kind of a trend, and then they get stopped. And it is another team that they match usually poorly against. So it was exciting to see Energy do what they did to make it back into the grand finals. And you saw that trend continue. I think right now it is so very difficult to win in a bracket reset. I personally cannot wait for the winter split to be done. I hate double elimination. I can't stand it. I think the broadcasts are way too long. I think there's way too many matches. I think there's so many better ways to find out who the best team is. And I think this is more of it. I will say there is anomalies and circumstances when this isn't the case, where you do see bracket resets and the bracket reset team ends up winning. But ultimately, I just really don't like this format. I think the days are way too long. I, as a viewer, just lose interest. I don't watch the grand final until a different day because I don't want to watch 7 or 8 Rocket League hours in a sitting. I just don't want to do it. It's not enticing. I don't care how good the storylines are. The fact that Rogue's going to win their first main event ever and like all this kind of, it just doesn't entice me. So I hope we never see double elimination again after these majors because the days are just too long. Like, we still have 8 days all throughout February of double elimination tournaments with 12 teams in each tournament. And like the amount of matches that are possible, like you're talking 23 games. It's just like, why? Why are we doing this format? Gibbs, what are you thinking, man? So hopefully this puts the bed to rest that we no longer have to double elimination ever again. That is my rant. Either way, Rogue and Energy. Energy, again, after playing multiple series in a row, is now able to reset. It does go to 7. They do win in 7. It is a very close series. A lot of goals scored. The team that wins usually would shut out the other team, like 1-0, 2-0, 1-0, 1-0, and then eventually goals started coming in. And then it hit the second series, and Rogue just stopped caring. I don't know if it's because they had the break, and the first series was viewed as a warm-up or what, but it definitely felt like in the second series, Energy felt spent. They put up a pretty good fight. I mean, you're talking 4-1, 2-0, 1-0, 2-1. So a couple of one-goal games in there, but it just felt like they were tapped. After that long day, after having to be required to play so good at such a high level, it further advocates my opinion of, I want 2 teams that are both on even playing field. Neither have lost. Both have the same amount of matches coming in. They're both feeling good. Let's see which one is going to lose. That is the one that is out. I have such a preference of it. I'm such a huge advocate for not doing double elimination unless you're doing double elimination in like a small group, like maybe like groups of 4. And then you find the top 2 out of that. Like, my ideal format is like 16 team, 4 groups of 4, double elimination. So you have 4 groups of 4. You take the top 2 out of that do a double elimination, and then they go into a final bracket of 8. That's how I ran the brawl. I think a lot of people enjoyed like the quality of competition and the lack of dedication you had to make. It's like you commit to one day, you're good. But again, I think energy just got burnt out. I think it's too many matches, having to play that many in a row. You're talking in that series alone, you're playing 11 matches. It's a lot of games of Rocket League, plus all the series beforehand, plus the broadcast started 6 hours ago. Like it's a long day. Not trying to make excuses for energy. Rogue played really freaking well. They looked incredible. I don't think sweeping energy is something that I will ever take lightly. Rogue finally really put up a fight, and this really reflects on the title of this video about, can Rogue fans really start to get excited about their team? Rogue fans have always been in this situation, and somewhat similar to G2 at times, where things are going good, things are going really good, we finally got some momentum, things are great, and then they just get their legs taken out from underneath them. I personally feel, and the reason why I'm still a little bit concerned, is because this is the first time Rogue has done something like this, where they've been able to close it out. They've been able to win. And I need to see it again. I think they'll still be competitive. I think top 6 is kind of their go-to, but to actually win the whole thing, in Rogue's run, they go through G2, Envy, Energy 3 times. That's 5 series of really good competition. The only one that they dodged is Space Station. I do think Space Station matches up pretty good with them. I also said the same thing about Energy. So I want to be confident in Rogue. I think Rogue has potential to be a top 4 team and kind of push out G2, honestly, at this point. Ultimately, I need to see it again. I think the big difference this time around was First Killer's ability to set up his teammates. It's almost reminiscent to what I'm seeing Gimmick do over on version 1, where Gimmick is taking a less selfish role. He's stepping back a little bit, and with his mechanical and his individual capabilities, he's doing it to set up Torment. He's doing it to set up Tom. If First Killer can do that same thing, where he's so mechanical and he's so good and so fast, if he starts bumping and demoing, starts creating opportunities, using that to set up passes, but then also mixing in his own individual skill with shots and solo plays, you could see a 3-headed monster on Rogue that I for one would welcome. I think it'd be really exciting. So I do think Rogue's success is heavily reliant on First Killer. Right now, it feels like he has to do everything. He has to wear the backpack. But if he allows his teammates to also help, that could be a really big difference maker. So hats off to Rogue. I'm sure Rogue fans are ecstatic. It's the first time they've been able to fully celebrate. You got yourself a damn X Games gold medal. That's pretty awesome. Energy, second place, silver medal, nothing to sly at. But yeah, really exciting matches this weekend. Another good regional. Just, again, I can't stand double elimination format. I'm excited for Winter Split to end. That is going to end it for this recap. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything I missed, make sure you drop those down below. A lot of really exciting replays and just highlights altogether. If you guys haven't seen the various highlights that play through this, there's a ton on the subreddit as well. But if you'd like additional information, you can find links to everything I'm talking about in the description down below. And while you're down there, if you guys enjoy the content, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, check out the social medias that are down there as well. And I'll catch you next time.